my favorite roller coaster. As with everyone, my favorite overall roller coaster has changed over time. But which coasters have had the privilege of being in that top spot? And why do I like roller coasters so much? Find out as I go over the history of my favorite coaster. Sadly, I don't remember my very first roller coaster, as it was likely a kiddie coaster somewhere. Since I know I went to Six Flags Fiesta Texas before Six Flags Astroworld, I list Rollshoe Coaster, now Batgirl Coaster Chase, as my favorite kiddie coaster from this era, making it nominally my favorite coaster for the beginning years of my life. This is still one of the better kiddie coasters in my rankings, despite its small size, so I feel it is well deserved as a solid basic kiddie coaster. As a kid, I played a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Oh, and then I played more Roller Coaster Tycoon. I absolutely loved building and designing roller coasters, as well as trying to understand all the different types of coasters out there. However, I did not like the drop feeling on roller coasters or even log flumes. And although I was dragged on a few and would try a bigger coaster every now and then, I wouldn't go on that many big coasters. That's why I went to Cedar Point, and my favorite ride there is still to this day the Spider, and why I went to Kings Island without riding any of their coasters. I also was in a really bad mood that day when I was at Kings Island, and I remember just watching Vortex go for most of the day while trying to get up enough courage to go on Scooby's Ghoster Coaster. But I loved watching coasters at amusement parks, and learning everything I could about theme parks, even if I couldn't actually enjoy riding the bigger coasters that they had. Six Flags Astroworld, however, offered solid, tamer coasters. With an Aero Mini Mine Train through the woods, Serpent easily became my new favorite kiddie coaster. As a coaster, I'd likely rank it as a regular coaster today, as I do with its counterpart Mini Mine Train at Six Flags Over Texas. Serpent mixed the mild turns and drops of an Aero Mini Mine Train with a beautiful setting through the woods. In hindsight, it's pretty impressive that Astroworld left so much green space around it, especially for what was essentially a kiddie coaster. Then, I rode two other Astroworld coasters that would move into my number one spot, XLR8 and Mayan Mindbender. Both coasters focused heavily on helixes, with XLR8 being an aero-suspended coaster, the second ever built after the ill-fated Bat at Kings Island. It was able to prove the concept of a suspended coaster viable, but was not too wild or crazy, which was perfect for me at the time that I rode. Mayan Mindbender offered nice theming and an indoor coaster focused on mild helixes. With nice shuffling around the various turns and a mild snaking layout, this is a fun family coaster that was plussed by nice theming. I never made a decision as far as which one I liked best, and I always refer to them collectively as my two favorite coasters from this time period. Then, I started to ride bigger coasters, eventually. I rode Poltergeist at Six Flags Fiesta Texas and was blown away with its speed and inversions. And I still use its feel today as a benchmark coaster for what I consider a solid mid-size roller coaster. The beauty of Poltergeist for me at the time was that it didn't have a large drop, as it is launched into its elements. Since the fear and anticipation of going over the first large drop was my biggest fear on coasters, not having this element convinced me to ride it, and allowed me to enjoy it. Then, on my next trip to Fiesta, Texas, I finally rode the Rattler. This wooden coaster was everything I could want in a coaster. It had a solid first drop, but as I was getting over my fear of drops, I became less drop sensitive over time. This drop gave me a little drop feeling without scaring me away from coasters. Unlike, say, my experience on Kennywood's Jackrabbit years earlier. Jackrabbit still scares me a little bit with those memories. Whew. But the Rattler offered a solid drop to let me show that I made it onto larger coasters. Then it went up on top of the quarry wall to do 3, let's emphasize the 3, loops around while you rattled like crazy with the bumpiness of the seats. Part of my complaints with Iron Rattler is that there's only 1 loop instead of 3 around this upper section. Likely, my love for this section was a blend of my love for XLR8 and my Mindbender, and my newfound love for a truly special and bigger coaster. The fact that the Rattler had a tunnel through the wall and a brief turnaround before the station also really helped to accent its length and power. I remember getting off this coaster shaking and running back around to get in line to ride it again and again and again. Then, I grew up enough that I just wasn't going to amusement parks anymore with my family, and for a long time, I didn't ride too many coasters. I did get to Busch Gardens Tampa Bay a couple of times, but with being rusty at riding coasters, I didn't even go on all of the coasters there, and none of these coasters could dethrone my memory of the Rattler. After moving to San Antonio in 2021, I was able to rekindle my love of coasters, with Six Flags Fiesta Texas and SeaWorld San Antonio. With the ability to ride all of these coasters and go to these parks regularly, I was finally able to enjoy my passion for roller coasters. I figured that one of these larger San Antonio coasters, I'm including Switchback since I really felt it had a shot of beating my memory of the Rattler, would easily beat the Rattler and become my new #1 coaster. But after riding all of these coasters, there were none that I clearly loved as much as the now defunct Rattler. Though I wanted to make a decision on a new #1, since I didn't want a defunct coaster's memory crowding my list forever. Iron Rattler was decent, but I came off rather unimpressed with my first couple of rides. It just did not live up to the original for me. Switchback is an enjoyable coaster that I do rank very highly, but did not give me that overwhelming feeling of being truly the best. The Steel Eel, with its beautiful airtime over its hills, though, clearly stood out. Maybe not as a better coaster than the Rattler, but a coaster that was more enjoyable than other great coasters like the Iron Rattler. As there isn't any airtime machine like the Steel Eel in San Antonio, with its loose lap bars and old seatbelts, bunny hills, and simple layout, I learned to love it for its floater airtime. As I love the concept of a well-executed gimmick on a coaster, the fact that the Steel Eel offers a great flying feeling over its hills makes me truly enjoy its magical experience. Since I was able to ride it while getting reacquainted with coasters, it also holds a very special place in my heart as one of my first wonderful experiences with floater airtime. Then, on my roller coaster travels, I expected to find better and more powerful coasters, but so far, I haven't, as other RMCs and such just haven't come close to the airtime of the Steel Eel. Mako, at SeaWorld Orlando, does offer beautiful airtime for B&M Hyper, and does well enough that I had it ranked right next to the Steel Eel after my initial rides. But, upon re-rides of both coasters, the Steel Eel just offers me more. At the end of the 2024 season, the Steel Eel got new seatbelt covers and seatbelts, which makes for a more safe ride. But since these are not as loose and worn as previous seatbelts, they do restrict the airtime just a smidge more, so it is not nearly as wonderful as before. At the same time, I've learned to ride the Iron Rattler in the 7th row to maximize the drop and overall experience. So it has been climbing to catch the Steel Eel, and did finally pass it after re-rides that confirmed the dialed back experience on the Steel Eel. Looking ahead, there's still a lot of big coasters that I have left to ride, so hopefully many of these can move into my top overall spot. But for now, These are the 8-ish coasters that have taken the spot as my favorite roller coaster in the world. Since everyone's favorite coaster will differ, my wife's was Wacky Worm at Pattaya Sheep Farm before riding Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Over Texas, which now reigns as her favorite. I'd love to hear what yours is and has been. What do you seek out in your favorite coaster? Which elements make it better than other ones that you've ridden? Let me know, and as always, Kapkunka.